How to create a circular mesh in Photoshop. First thing to do, I'm going to create a gradient because I'm going to create a colourful design. So I've got a document here, an image and image size. Obviously just create the document via the file and new, but this is the image size I'm using, 5000 and a height of 20 and 72 for the resolution. So that's the size for that. So cancel now. I'm going to change it. And I'm going to fill it with, could fill it of course with anything. You could fill it with brush strokes, etc. But you can also fill it with a gradient or images, etc. And I'm going to go with a gradient I've already created just down there. Let's just click on the gradient at the top. And you can see the different stops there. You can find many tutorials on the web as well as on Graphic Extras channel how to create those gradients. And then just apply the gradient. I'm using linear. And I'm using normal blending mode. So I'm just going straight across the document to create that nice design there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Edit and Define Pattern. Like I say, you could use anything for this, but I'm using a gradient. Give it a name, click OK. Now go to another document. And this time I'm using Image Menu and Image Size. And you can see the size 3000 and 2220 and 72. The result, if you use different size documents, will vary. I wanted to show you the size of the documents I'm going to be using. Now go over to the Ellipse Tool, find it there, and I'm using Path. And I'm using combined shapes. Doesn't particularly matter. I'm just going to use one path in this example. You could use multiple paths. Well, multiple designs, but all in a single path. So I'm just going to create a very, very small circle. And then I'm just going to go to Edit and Fill. But I'm going to do something slightly different because I'm going to go to Layer menu first. Create a new layer because I want it on a layer. It's always used. You can apply it just on the background layer. It's perfectly fine. So I've got a new layer now. Now what I can do then, I can go to Edit and Fill. Select Pattern. Go and select the pattern that you've just created. And make certain the script is on. And place a long path. And use normal blending mode. Click OK. Now the preview does not match the end result in any way. Once you get this panel pop up, to place a long path. And I've got maximum scale. Unfortunately, you can't push it any further than that. And also the spacing. Now you can vary that. Now I'm going to go with -106. Just seems to work nice, but you can vary it. You might find a better result with a different value, but you can try, experiment with it. And it does require a little bit of experimentation. Angle from path 0, distance 0, 100% for the scale. Colour, brightness, all 0. So once you've got those, what you can do, click OK. Now you can see the preview does not match the end result. You've got that design there. And that's using a very small circle. Well, you can actually make a more intense design by making a bigger circle. So you can just remove that. Just delete the work path. Yes, just delete that. And it's gone. You can see over in Paths. You've got the window menu and Paths. You can see that. Now, create a slightly bigger circle. Hold down the shift to make it a circle. You can see the work path there. Now what you can then do, you can apply the fill again. And this time it will be far more intense. Edit and Fill. And again, use exactly the same pattern, script, etc. Click OK. And again, preview, just a line. And you can see your design there. And of course you could have made the design even bigger, the circle. But I wanted it to be that sort of size. So it's sort of, whoops, table there. It fills most of the document. And again, I could just resize it slightly, but if you go too big, what happens is, of course, you're right over the edge and you haven't got much of the mesh. So there's a fine balance there. And you can run it a few times just to get the right setting there. Something like that, that's fine. So you've got this lovely circular mesh design now. Now, that's could be the end point. You don't have to go any further. What you could do, you could recolor it, do any other things, but you could, of course, I've used that gradient, but you can always vary the gradient. You can always go back to your original source document for the gradient, maybe change the gradient itself, maybe apply it in little different parts of the there. Vary it, maybe use blending modes. So you just go and put it to difference or lighten. Go across there. You can vary it a number of times. And once you've defined, you can go and define it now. Edit and define pattern. Click OK. And then you go back to the other document. And then you just run it. I'm not going to change anything. So edit and fill. It should overlap the earlier one. You're very surprised if it didn't. Change the pattern, obviously, to the new pattern. Click OK. And the design maybe not exactly one, and it does create slightly odd. Maybe too many stops creates a very weird sort of design there. I think that's more a memory issue than anything else. But you can create all kinds of lovely, colourful designs. Again, you can see that line across there. It's not so prominent in that example, but it's obviously more prominent with more stops. But I don't really want this design. What I want to do, this is just a start point. I just want to show you, you can use gradients and colour. But you can also simply just go to Layer menu and Layer Style and Bevel Emboss. You know, a bit of a bevel there. Change the depth, change the settings there. Just going to create very, very subtle depth. I might even position the... I always find the Layer Style panel quite a bit too large. It always seems to fill most of the screens. You can't see the end result. So then go down to Gradient Overlay and you can see design. Now at this point you could of course vary the gradient and then you could recolor it with nice different gradients, maybe different colours. Maybe I might do a tutorial about that. But you can vary that, the gradient. And what you can then do, you can also go to the drop shadow and just add a bit of drop shadow. You can move that around, just give it a bit of depth again. You've got that lovely black shadow behind there. And you can move that around with the drop shadow selected. And of course, what you could do, you could have some styles already created. So you go to Styles panel and just use a style. Click OK once you're happy with that. Now, what I like to do normally is go to the Layer menu and turn it into a smart object. I'm not going to do any more work particularly. I'm going to modify it in any way. So convert to a smart object. And one thing about smart objects means you can go back to it later. It's always very useful. And I'm just going to now work with this. What you can do, you can use the Move tool and hold down the Alt or Option key, or just drag it around first before you do that. Then hold down the Alt or Option key just to duplicate the design, so you can create some very unique combinations. So you can see you've got now this lovely depth to your design, this mesh, circular mesh design. Now I'm going to just go to the navigator because I want to resize that backdrop. A bit hard to resize it. Probably easier just go to navigator. I always find that navigators. Anyway, so you can move it around and reposition it. So you can create some, and of course I've used just 2 layers, but you could of course 3, 4, 10 layers. But you can also, now you'll see there's a problem, edit and transform path, because if you go over to the path panel, you see the path is selected. Deselect that, so there's no path displayed, and then go back to this window menu and path. Now you can go back to the edit and you can transform and use perspective, distort, but I'm going to use warp. So I can just warp the design. So you can just warp it. And you can see then you can create some really unusual combinations. And you can click anywhere and just warp that mesh. Reposition it. And you can move that, obviously that hole there around. And also, if you wish, you can resize it. And that was the reason why I want the navigator. Because it's very hard to now rescale that. The bounding box is a bit awkward. So just go to navigator, and then now you can resize it. So you can just fill the whole screen. Otherwise you have that lovely bend in the design. So now you can see you've got that lovely double hole design there. So what you can also do, you can apply some effects to that. You can also recolor it, do many different things. I'm just going to go back to the first one. So, because obviously I've done that, but I just want to show you can do 3, 4, 5, 6 different, if you want to go that far, just create multiple layers. Now I'm just going to use the original design that I created, that mesh design, and then I'm going to apply, it's a smart object, so I'm going to apply some smart filters. And of course you can always modify the smart filters at a later point. So filter, menu, stylize, and oil paint, just to apply. I'll just put the values up, then click OK, and you create a slightly smeary design there. You can also warp it. I've obviously warped it before with the edit and transform, but now you can use the liquefy. So go into liquefy, and you can just warp it in all kinds of ways. Make a starfish design. And just drag it, because what's happened is, just obviously you can see the edge there. I'm just pushing the mesh up a bit around the edge. And you can distort the mesh in all kinds of ways. And of course, what you could do, you could again create multiple layers and combine them. So you've got your design there. You can now recolor it if you wish as well. So image menu, adjustments, and maybe go to color lookup, but you can also go to hue and saturation. And then click colorize, and then just vary the hue as well as the saturation and brightness, lightness. Click OK once you're finished. So you have it, a lovely mesh design created using basically a very basic gradient and simple document that's very thin, as well as patterns and a fill command. Hope you found this tutorial of interest. Please subscribe to the Graphic Extras channel, always adding new tutorials. Any questions, please put some comments, always appreciated. A dislike or like. Thank you much.